right. Good morning, good morning. Good afternoon. Jazzy Jules said, praying, Laverne, justice for Quentin. Exactly. Susan. Yeah. Lena Jam said, I pulled over. I just want to prepare everyone that the word on the streets is that they're all decided on her lying to the police, but not about murder. Our friend Joyce said, I haven't been able to watch this, but I do hope she's guilty. Good morning, good afternoon, Sophia. I'm used to saying good morning. I am a wreck about this. You know what? Let's just take a deep breath and tell everyone hello. Let's just do this. All right. Here we go. Cat saying guilty, guilty, guilty. Look at that bitch. Sorry, I have to interrupt. Look at her. Goodness. And you got Billy flying into these other chats saying, I wish I could tell the whole story. Well, then tell it.
SPCR 22-03364J6. The state of Georgia versus Leilani Marie Simon. Let the record reflect that counsel for both parties are present. Ms. Simon is present with her counsel. I have received a note, and it says we have reached a verdict. And Mr. Bryant, if you would mark this as a court's exhibit as well. I believe we're up to 7. Yes. Okay. And if the parties wish to see this note, you're welcome. I don't wish to. Okay. Then I'll hand this back down, Miss Blake. Okay. So. And you may, if you would, please call in the jury. Angel.
Jurors entering. Jury room is clear, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Smith. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you may have a seat. Thank you very much. And I understand that you have received the verdict. I just want to say, first of all, to those who are in the audience, there has been a jury verdict reached. To everyone in attendance, and many of you have been here for quite some time, I will ask that there not be any emotional reactions and no disruptive outbursts. So at this point, I am going to ask the foreperson to please stand. Juror 5. And have you reached a verdict?
Yes, we have.
Was it unanimous?
Yes, it was.
Has the verdict been filed in or filled in and signed and dated by you?
Yes, it has.
And if you would please hand the verdict to Deputy Solomon. Thank you, Deputy Solomon, for handing that up. I'm going to ask counsel to approach and take a look at the verdict form.
Okay, so I do not know what the verdict is. Maybe I'm behind. I don't know. I did hear earlier on WSAV that it was hung.
As to the verdict, it reads as follows. We, the jury, find as follows: malice murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 4, concealing the death of another. We find the defendant guilty. Count 5, false report of a crime. We find the defendant guilty. Count 6, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 7, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 8, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 9, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 10, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 11, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 12, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 13, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 14, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 15, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 16, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 17, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 18, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. And count 19, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Okay. And is there anything further from the state? From the defense? Certainly. So, members of the jury, this is something that very often happens. You will be asked questions by the clerk, 3 questions in particular, I believe, and simply answer the questions. Madam Clerk.
Juror number 1, was this your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 2. Juror number 2. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 3. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 4. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 5. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 6. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 7. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 8, was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 9, was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 10, was that your verdict then?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes, ma'am.
Juror number 11,
Yes.
was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 12, was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
She's not even really crying. And for those of you that already knew, Slick Black said way behind over here. It just popped up for me. I apologize. I'm so sorry that I don't work for the fucking court. Very rude when we're trying to do a show. The rudest is Leilani. Grabbing tissues, acting like she cares. But yes, justice has been served.
Anything further at this time with the juries?
No, Your Honor.
With the jurors. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your service, for your time, for your energy. This has been an important more than 2 weeks now that you've spent with the court, and your time and attention is deeply appreciated. I am going to release you. If anyone wants to speak with you about your deliberations and you want to, you may do so now. You're being released from the instructions. You're not under any obligation to speak with anyone about your experience, but you may do so if you choose to. I am ordering that there be no contact with the jurors in the courthouse or on the courthouse property. But I do release you at this point. Thank you. You're free to go.
Jurors exiting.
Oh, okay. I have to hear this again. Sorry.
A note, and it says we have reached a verdict. And Mr. Bryant, if you would mark this as a court exhibit as well. I believe we're up to 7. Okay. And if the parties wish to see this note, you're welcome. Okay, then I'll hand this back down, Miss Blake. Okay. So. And you may, if you would, please call in the jury. Thank you.
Jurors entering. Jury room is clear, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Deputy Smith. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you may have a seat. Thank you very much. And I understand that you have received the verdict. I just want to say First of all, to those who are in the audience, there has been a jury verdict reached. To everyone in attendance, and many of you have been here for quite some time, I will ask that there not be any emotional reactions and no disruptive outbursts. So at this point, I am going to ask the foreperson to please stand. Juror 5. And have you reached a verdict?
Yes, we have.
Was it unanimous?
Yes, it was.
Has the verdict been filed in or filled in and signed and dated by you?
Yes, it has.
And if you would please hand the verdict to Deputy Solomon. Thank you, Deputy Solomon, for handing that up. I'm going to ask counsel to approach and take a look at the verdict form. As to the verdict, it reads as follows. We, the jury, find as follows: malice murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 4, concealing the death of another. We find the defendant guilty. Count 5, false report of a crime. We find the defendant guilty. Count 6, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 7, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 8, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 9, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 10, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 11, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 12, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 13, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 14, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 15, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 16, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 17, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 18, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. And count 19, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. And is there?
So what the hell is Billy doing in these other chats and not sitting there asking, begging for justice for her son? Yeah. She had full custody of him. Where the hell is Billy Joe? And why are people taking up for her? Paper Slut said grandson. Absolutely grandson. Biologically. But as far as the courts were concerned, he was her son. She had permanent guardianship of Zane and Quentin. Leilani said it in interrogation. My mom signed the paperwork. And things just went back. I'm still going to take care of the kids, but she on paper would be their mom, but I would take care of them. That's with every warning given. Now, is Leilani incompetent to take care of children? I don't know. I really don't. I can tell you that she had it out for one. I mean, and every nick in the brick shows she is not. I don't mean good mom, great mom, the PTA mother. She couldn't even take care of herself. Hence why she lived with her mother. Did it never click with Billy that, listen, she has 3 kids, 3 different dudes on probation. But now I'm going to raise her. I'm going to tuck her and her new boyfriend into this bedroom. Let them have the run of the house. And hopefully that gray matter between her ears starts making decisions instead of the pink matter between her knees.
Is there anything further from the state? From the defense? Certain. So, members of the jury, this is something that very often happens. You will be asked questions by the clerk, 3 questions in particular, I believe, and simply answer the questions. Madam Clerk.
Juror number 1, was this your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 2. Juror number 2. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 3. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 4. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 5. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 6. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 7. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 8. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 9. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 10. Was that your verdict then?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes, ma'am.
Juror number 11.
Yes.
Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 12. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Anything further at this time with the juries?
No.
With the jurors. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your service, for your time, for your energy. This has been an important more than 2 weeks now that you've spent with the court, and your time and attention is deeply appreciated. I am going to release you. If anyone wants to speak with you about your deliberations and you want to, you may do so now. You're being released from the instructions. You're not under any obligation to speak with anyone about your experience, but you may do so if you choose to. I am ordering that there be no contact with the jurors in the courthouse or on the courthouse property. But I do release you at this point. Thank you. You're free to go.
You're exiting.
Look at this. Hey, look, I don't blame her for crying. I don't. I'm putting the link up. Wanda Boatwright has been fighting and fighting and fighting. She has done amazing things for Quentin. Amazing things. Look now, she's got tears running down her face. They're everywhere. She's picking boogers. She's wiping snot. She's got tears. She didn't ever cry for Quentin. No. Not even once. She devised a plan to get rid of him, to get Danny's attention.
All clear, Judge.
All right, everyone may please have a seat. Sentencing will not occur at this time. It's going to be scheduled for another date. That date will be determined. And of course, if there's anything to be presented in aggravation or mitigation, I'll hear it at that time. All right. Is there anything further at this point from the state?
No, Your
From the defense?
Honor. No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you as well for your service from the state as well as from the defense. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take her ass to the big house. Go ahead. Because this is what happens. Okay, we are not done yet. This is exactly what I think convinced the jury. Do y'all have a little bit of time?
Sometimes motive is not an element of the crime that prosecutors have to prove, but it's just not. But in this case, we know what the motive is.
Okay. Had this girl come right out the gate, I'm telling you, the way she closed it. Give me a second to say thank you to Got a Secret. Can you keep it? Member for 8 months. Exactly. Justice was served for baby Quentin. Thank God. Sophia Petrillo, my goodness, girlfriend, 5 months. Jinbug, 17 months. We've been talking back and forth all day. Look at that. Kimberly, man, 5 Crime Lines and Lies memberships. Love one another, gifted a membership. Sophia gifted one. Look at that. Pink Kelly. Love this community. Now, what in the world is Kat doing? Kat left. Is this British pounds? or US pounds? Oh, Kat said, sorry about earlier, Brooks. Good to see Quentin's justice served. Girl, you didn't do anything wrong. You know better than that. You know how we do around here. You know how we do. So we all have some time for this, because I believe this closing argument is what sealed the deal. Look at that boy mama, member for 21 months. And I would love to hear a press conference from Chief Hadley, because the way he ran this investigation with everything going on was beyond amazing. Do you all remember this?
And we believe that this was the right move today to be able to do that. She doesn't deserve a Thanksgiving, quite frankly, if I can go off script a little bit. Quentin deserves that.
He was choking up. He was choking up.
And it's important to understand that motive, to understand why a mother could do something so awful as kill her own child. Because it is. It's something so evil that is almost unspeakable, incomprehensible that a mother could kill her own 1-year-old baby. So we have to think about the state of mind that this woman was in at that time. She was deeply, deeply unhappy with her life. She had 3 really small children. She had a 3-year-old, a 20-month-old, and an infant. In the best of circumstances, if you had family support, if you had your own place to live, if you had plenty of money, even in great circumstances, having to take care of a 3-year-old, a 20-month-old, and an infant would be so hard and so stressful. But to add on to that stress, she didn't have those other things. Her relationship with her mother was not good. Her mother was gone a lot, so that was not a real support for her. Her relationship with Danny was falling apart. Danny was getting fed up with her.
I love how she said Danny was getting fed up with her. If anyone would like to contribute to buying some coffee, pizza, sandwiches, whatever, to the Chatham County Police Department, you can cash out me. Once we get to a certain amount, I'm going to turn it off. Or there's a certain thing called buy a cup of coffee for a cop. I think it'd be really important for this community, since, for 2 years we have followed this case, and they are the ones that put everything together. Everything. So if someone could put my Cash App in here or my PayPal, we will all put this together, and we are going to send our gratitude to Chatham County, because they did not mess around.
Their relationship was falling apart. They didn't have any money. She was drug addicted. She and Danny were living in her mother's house in one room with these 3 children. And when we talk about her relationship with Craig, or the fact that she had 3 children with 3 different fathers, we're not trying to call her a slut. Nobody is trying to slut shame the defendant. We wouldn't do that. This is 2024. That's not what this is about. When we talk about those things, what we're trying to show you is that this woman's self-esteem came from men. And part of why she was so deeply unhappy was because Danny was rejecting her. And it made her feel horrible, because that's where her self-esteem came from. And that's why at 22 years old, she already had 3 children with 3 different fathers, because men were so important to how she saw herself and how she felt about herself.
Y'all's daughter said, I think it was more than Danny. He's just a piece of the puzzle. Well, the puzzle is solved, my friend. You see, they have investigated all of them, every one of them. And it came all the way down to Leilani. That's the reason they have the timeline. Danny has nothing to do with Quentin's murder. Who didn't take the stand? There's two very important people that did not take the stand. One is Leilani, or as our friend Kat calls her, Lilazy. The other is Billy Joe Howell. And now look at those people over there sucking on Billy's asshole. Billy, you did nothing wrong. Billy, you did nothing wrong. Two people did not take the stand. One is going away for life, and the other one was 100% in charge of Quentin, but didn't give a shit. Y'all's daughter says, I know, I meant her psychology is what the problem is, deeper than Danny. She's a psycho, and she used everyone in her life. Absolutely. Absolutely. Barb said, Cher. I don't know why Cher would take the stand. I have no idea. No idea.
And that's what was part of why she felt so awful that night. You saw the suicide video that she did, where she talked about how unhappy she was. She even said to her children, I can't love you because I can't love myself. It doesn't seem she ever intended to kill herself. It was something she was going to send to Danny, probably for attention, for him to feel sorry for her, because she was manipulative of Danny, very manipulative of Danny. And the reason that she started this sexual relationship with Craig was to fill a void there. And this sexual relationship with Craig was a new thing. It's something that had just happened in the weeks before this. So on the night that she killed Quentin, Danny had rejected her. She's using drugs. She's on cocaine, marijuana, Percocet, and maybe alcohol, because we saw her go and buy beer at the convenience store. She's under the influence. She said in her own statements that drug use made her angry and impulsive. So she's unhappy. She's mad at Danny. She's under the influence of drugs that make her angry and impulsive. And so she goes to Arkwright looking for Craig, because Craig is where she has been getting that need fulfilled for male attention that makes her feel better about herself. And Craig's not there that night. That's why it matters, and why we made Craig come in here and testify, because he wasn't there that night. And so she couldn't get that need fulfilled. She couldn't feel better about herself. So instead, she does something so drastic. She killed Quentin. And in the act of killing Quentin, she became a sympathetic person and got Danny's attention back. She became the mother of a missing child. And Danny ran out of work to be by her side. That's what she wanted. That was the manipulation. And it's so hard to believe a mother would do that. But that's why you have to think about her frame of mind and how low and desperate she felt that night, and that she was under the influence of drugs that she admits make her angry and impulsive. That's what happened. You also may wonder, why Quentin? Why that child? And Quentin was her disposable child. She did not like Quentin's father. She loved Zane. Zane was her ride or die. You heard Michelle McCarta talk about how she would say Zane had been through everything with her. He was her ride or die. And Sky, who was her youngest child, the baby infant, was Danny's child. She needed Sky to keep Danny around. Quentin was disposable. She didn't really like Quentin. We heard testimony about how she would call Quentin names. We heard testimony.
My question, and I will never get the answer to it, why did she always have it out for Quentin? Why? It still hasn't been 100% answered why Billy had custody of Quentin and Zane. Obviously, DFACS, as they call it in Georgia, was involved. Jinbug said resentment for Bubba. Baby kisses for a coffee. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, you guys are blowing my mind. I got to do a lot of accounting now. Hang on. Thank you so much. Now, you all tell me, I'm going to put it on the members tab. What should we do for Chatham County? Because I think, actually, I'm going to call their asses right now. Let's go through this when they answer. Hang on.
About her hitting him, about her pushing him in the pool. She didn't do this to any of her other children. She would feed Zane before she fed Quentin. She didn't do that to any of her other children. Quentin was disposable. And so she disposed of him in the trash can. But that's why Quentin, and not one of her other children. Her plan did not last. Her story came apart really, really fast. Because the police, when a child is missing, it is all hands on deck, and they're going to start using every resource they can to find this child and see what's going on in this household. And it was within a very short period of time that they discovered her vehicle on those SWAT cameras leaving home during the night when she said she had been at home. So it was within hours that they knew she was lying.
My name is Brooks Jones, and I have a channel called Crime Lines and Lies, and all of us would like to send lunch to your department.
Okay.
After the Quentin Simon verdict, because we have been following for a long time, and you are outstanding law enforcement.
Okay. So we have 3 offices.
Mm-hmm.
Are you trying to send it for the whole department or?
Just whichever office, I mean, which one are the detectives? And I mean, shoot, you might want to have a sandwich too. I don't know. I didn't realize you had 3 offices. Which one is Chief Hadley at with the detectives?
Now, he's not at the one where the detectives is.
Oh, okay.
So the detectives are on the island precinct.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want the detective department?
Well, I mean, just whoever wants to eat. I don't know.
Okay, so I'll transfer you to the islands precinct, to CID, to their
Okay.
secretary. Hold on one second.
Perfect.
I'm having CID.
Hello, my name is Brooks Jones. I have a YouTube channel called Crime Lines and Lies, and we want to send a meal over to your department for everything you all have done for Quentin Simon.
Okay, what was your name?
Brooks, Brooks Jones.
Okay. Hold on a second.
And yes, I'm live right now because we just heard the verdict. And I mean, we are just blubbering. We are so happy that you all got this done.
Okay, hold on one second for me. You've reached Betsy Nolan with the Chatham County Police Department. Please leave your name and number, and I'll return your call as soon as possible. If this is an emergency, please call 911. If you need to speak with a police officer, please call our non-emergency dispatch number at 912-652-6500. You may start your message now.
Hello, my name is Brooks Jones. I have a YouTube channel called Crime Lines and Lies, and we have been following the Quentin Simon case since, well, October 6th of 2022. My phone number is 315-796-0317, and we would love to send you all lunch in appreciation for all the amazing work you've done. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
The defense also said that we don't like to talk about Danny, and that's not true. Like, we talk about Danny a lot. There's nothing about Danny that makes us uncomfortable talking about him or why he didn't do this. There's overwhelming evidence that that is the person who killed Quentin Simon and not Danny. The defense also kept talking about Danny being up at 3 o'clock in the morning and seeing Quentin. That did not come into evidence in this trial. Go back and check your notes. That is not something that is in evidence. The only mistake Danny made was in the morning when he left at 5:20 in the morning. He originally said he saw Clinton, and he talked about that. He just assumed it because he woke up in the dark, got ready for work, quietly left the house. He just assumed Quentin was there then. He did not go over to the pack and play and look in and say, "Hey, Quentin, you there?" He didn't do that. And so because he had not seen anything weird when he left home, he just assumed that Quentin was there and it was fine. And when pressed and questioning, he explained that he had not actually gone over to the pack and play and looked and made sure that Quentin was there. That is the only inconsistency in his statement, and it is very understandable. The defense has started trying to suggest that Danny could have done this, but Danny is not the one that was at the dumpster in the middle of the night throwing a bag of trash in. A dumpster that later went to an area of the landfill where Quentin's body was found. It was not Danny's phone that was at the dump. It was not Danny's car driving to the dump. It was her. She drove to the dump, and she admitted that she was there. Mr. Dean spent a lot of time making it clear about where this trash went to the landfill. The landfill is huge. And Quentin's body was found in the specific part of the landfill where the dumpster.
Okay, the press conference is on. Let's please listen to it.
Tim has since left and gone to work for the U.S. Attorney's Office here and stayed on this case as a special assistant district attorney throughout the trial. And so we'd really like to thank him for his time, thank the U.S. Attorney's Office for being gracious enough to allow him to continue to work on the case. I'd also like to thank the Chatham County Police Department and the FBI for their incredible work on this case from the very beginning, and all of our law enforcement partners who assisted in the investigation of this case, the civilians who volunteered to help with the search for Quentin Simon, and civilians who were willing to speak up in court. Also, we'd like to thank Waste Management for their assistance in the search for Quentin. We'd also like to thank Judge Stokes, counsel for the defendant, the court staff, and the Chatham County Sheriff's Office for their incredible professionalism during the course of this trial. And of course, the district attorney would like to thank the staff of the district attorney's office who have worked so hard on this case. You see 2 or 3 of us in court, but it really takes a big team of people to make this happen. I'd especially like to thank the Victim Witness Assistance Program in the District Attorney's Office. We couldn't try any case without them. They're such an important part of what we do. And on behalf of myself, I'd just like to say what an honor it was to take part in this trial. It is always such an honor to be able to speak up for victims, but especially for child victims. And I will answer a couple of questions if you have any.
Yeah, Ms. Parker, you made some incredibly compelling closing statements, especially. It was very emotional and I feel like really appealed to the humanity of Quentin, which you yourself mentioned. A lot of the case was centered around Leilani Simon and her actions and not focused on the little boy. What was your feeling when you heard that Quentin, in the state's eyes, had justice?
It was a relief. It is always a relief when we get a guilty verdict in a serious case like that. That's the only emotion I can describe. It's just relief.
Was there ever any worry because of, that lack of the physical evidence, and the defense really picked on that and honed in on it on their closing arguments? Were you guys nervous about the verdict at all?
This was a complex case because we did not have a cause and manner of death in this case because of what happened. And so that's always a concern. But the law enforcement agencies involved did such a wonderful job investigating this case. And so we did our best to present the evidence that they had.
So what was your biggest challenge going into this case as a prosecutor?
Our biggest challenge was not having an autopsy because of the circumstances in which this child died.
And how did you compensate for that? What did you think you'd have to present to the jury?
Well, we presented additional medical evidence in place of that. Also had a forensic anthropologist from the FBI who came and spoke. And so we used that evidence in place of where we normally would use autopsy evidence in a murder trial.
So what are the next steps?
Well, the next steps, of course, the defendant has the right to an appeal. And so we will go through the appeal process and work through any issues from the trial and hope to have a good outcome there.
There was some suggestion of when the verdict was read that the judge was going to hear aggravating and mitigating evidence at the sentencing hearing.
Yes, I've skipped right over sentencing to appeal because that's the next thing in my thoughts, of course. I'm not going to talk at this point about what might come up at sentencing because that is an issue ahead of us, of course, and I wouldn't want to comment on that yet. Okay, anything else?
Just as a community member, this has been such a long case. People in this community have been waiting for justice, and I'm sure Quentin has. What's your message to the community now that a chapter in this horrible, horrible situation is closed?
We can't undo this. We can't, but I hope it does give a lot of people out there who have been watching this trial some closure and some confidence in the justice system that if we have time to work through the issues, the investigators have time to do their jobs, we have time to have a fair trial, that we get justice.
So Jennifer, there was a theory, at least Marion Lemons hinted that she had an opinion of how he died. What is that opinion? Would you share that with us? What's your take on what happened to Quentin that night?
I can't speak any further than what you have heard in court. I think that we clarified what we know about what happened to him that night and put that evidence up in court. Okay, that's all I can do right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, so that press conference happening outside of the courthouse with Jenny Parker, Assistant District Attorney for Chatham County. We are expecting another press conference very soon, so stick with us from the Chatham County Police Department. As that press conference comes live, we'll come back up here and share more. But again, if you're just joining, Leilani.
Wow. I'm just wondering if the chief is going to be talking today. What do you all think? It seems like he will. So we have, they said 3:45 Eastern. So let's go through this right now. Let's just wind it back a little bit and remember, like, where we came from.
Good evening, everybody. Jeff Hadley. I'm the Chief of Police for the Chatham County Police Department. I'm accompanied this evening by Will Clark with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This afternoon, Chatham County Police Department detectives arrested 22-year-old Leilani Simon and charged her with malice murder, concealing the death of another person, false reporting, and making false statements in connection with the disappearance and death of her son, 20-month-old Quentin Simon. Leilani Simon is being held at the Chatham County Detention Center and is awaiting a bond hearing. We do not anticipate any other arrests in this case. She has been the sole suspect from the beginning. On Friday, our search teams at the waste management landfill found what they believed were human remains. This afternoon, the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia, confirmed that they are, in fact, human remains. Additional testing, including a DNA analysis, is being conducted, and we have every reason to believe that this will confirm the remains are Quentin's. This is a heartbreaking development for everyone who loved Quentin, for the many people who came to know him after his disappearance, and for our department. When we first received the call that Quentin was missing, we were hopeful that we would find him alive and unharmed. But as we have been telling you for weeks, all of our evidence pointed to his mother being responsible for his death and disappearance, and his remains being found in the landfill. I would like to thank the many people and agencies who worked hard to ensure that Quentin was found, that he would have a proper resting place, and that justice would be served. First and foremost, I want to thank the FBI. We are incredibly grateful for their invaluable assistance. Their expertise, their manpower, resources, and guidance are unmatched and were crucial in our efforts to find Quentin. They were on the scene within 3 hours of Quentin being reported missing and have assisted with every aspect of this investigation. The resources they poured into the landfill search are extraordinary and are the reason that we were able to find Quentin. I can't thank them enough. Chatham County Police Department's Criminal Investigation Division also deserves special recognition. Their devotion to Quentin, to making sure this crime did not go unsolved, is an example of police work at its finest. Our detectives worked tirelessly and were determined to follow every lead and uncover every piece of evidence in this case. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Chatham County Sheriff's Office, and Department of Natural Resources all had officers searching the landfill alongside our officers in the FBI. The support of the Chatham County Emergency Management Agency, Chatham Emergency Services, Chatham Occupational Safety and Health, Savannah Police, and Savannah Fire also were invaluable in this massive effort. Finally, I would like to thank the many people who showed their support for our department during this incredibly difficult and important investigation. We appreciate those who kept faith in the system and waited patiently for evidence we needed to make sure Quentin has every opportunity to receive the justice he deserves. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Will Clark, who has some comments from the FBI.
Good evening. My name is Will Clark. I'm the Senior Supervisory Resident Agent of the Savannah and Brunswick offices of the FBI. 1 month ago, we began this landfill search.
And I remember this press conference like it was yesterday. So for those that are just, coming in, just, tuning in, she's guilty on all counts. Now, I was a little worried when they only wanted to look at the indictments about lying. I was afraid we were going to have a hung jury. Like, hey, Kate, let's go through all the lying BS, but not the murder. That really confused me, if you want to know the truth. I just thought that's just nuts. Just me said I wasn't. Oh, she said I wasn't. I wasn't worried at all. This team of law enforcement did amazing work. We say on this channel all the time, listen, justice is a crock pot on keep warm. It's not a microwave. It takes a long time to put everything together because guess what? The person that done it isn't going to tell you what they did done. They're not going to. Next, we have Sarah Boone. I actually wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't walk. Not that I want that to happen.
Search alongside Chatham County Police Department with one purpose in mind, and that was to find Quentin and to bring him home. On Friday, search crews from the FBI and Chatham County found what we preliminarily believe are partial remains from a human child. Those bones were immediately sent to our lab in Quantico, Virginia. Additional testing for potential confirmation is now underway. It could be days before we have final results. What happened to this 20-month-old child is unthinkable. No child should be harmed by anyone, let alone the person in their lives that should be their protector. This investigation does not end here. There is more work to do. The FBI, along with our law enforcement partners, will continue to find justice for Quentin. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll appreciate that. We'll try to answer some questions that you may have. Just be mindful that there's many we may not be able to answer, but we'll be willing to take some questions at this time.
Well, hello, Robin. How are you? What do you think about this verdict?
I'm so thankful.
Absolutely.
I'm so thankful. I've never followed Quentin Simon's books.
Well, we have an entire playlist about Quentin Simon, and we've done just a lot of, keeping up with his case.
I cried through the whole 9 days of watching this trial. I'm like, how can you not love your own child? That's your baby. I just I can't fathom how a mother could do this to her child. I just can't put it all in my head.
All right. Can you hang with me here for a second, my friend? Because the press conference is coming on.
Mm-hmm.
We heard right in the courtroom as the charges were read out from Judge Tammy Stokes. We do have sound from that moment when Judge Stokes read out all 19 charges in that indictment and the jury finding Simon guilty.
Maria said Harmon Montgomery needs justice. Well, she has justice. Her father will be in jail for the rest of his life, but finding her body will be a different. Robin, do you have your YouTube on, hon?
Say what?
Do you have like some kind of bounce back? Do you have your YouTube on?
I don't know. I had to sign in with Google. I had to redo my phone.
Okay.
As to
Okay, now listen, we have 269 people in here right now. People heard me leave a voicemail in order to send some food and treats to the officers in Chatham County. That doesn't mean that people need to keep fucking calling me. That wasn't for you to call. Come on, there's such a thing as trust. I have 4 different text messages saying I tried calling, but your mailbox is full. Good Lord.
To the verdict, it reads as follows. We, the jury, find as follows: malice murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 4, concealing the death of another. We find the defendant guilty. Count 5, false report of a crime. We find the defendant guilty. Count 6, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty.
And we are at the end of a 10-day trial. We know that jury deliberated for just under 7 hours. We heard from nearly 40 witnesses.
Robin, you've got something going on in the background and it's making it where we can't hear. Is it YouTube or what do you have going on? The feedback is really hard. She'll figure it out.
Witnesses from the state. We also heard a press conference just moments ago from Jenny Parker, Chatham County Assistant District Attorney, who talked about this case and what it meant to get the guilty verdict. Here's a moment that she spoke with our reporter, Shay Schrader, who was in the courtroom every day of this trial. The defense built their case on what they thought was a lack of evidence, and Shay Schrader asked Jenny Parker about that and if the prosecution was worried about that during the trial. And here's her response.
Was there ever any worry because of, that lack of the physical evidence, and the defense really picked on that and honed in on it on their closing arguments? Were you guys nervous about the verdict at all?
This was a complex case because we did not have a cause and manner of death in this case because of what happened. And so that's always a concern. But the law enforcement agencies involved did such a wonderful job investigating this case. And so we did our best to present the evidence that they had.
And so we heard that press conference from Jenny Parker just moments ago. And here's a full list of the charges that Leilani Simon was found guilty of. Count 1, malice murder. Counts 2 to 3, felony murder. Count 4, concealing the death of another. Count 5, false report of a crime. And counts 6 to 19 were for making a false statement. We expect to hear from the Chatham County Police Department in a few moments. Actually, that press conference expected to start around 3:45. So stick with us. We'll carry that press conference live.
This is what I'm talking about. Laura said Billy Joe had permanent guardianship of the boys. She should be held accountable for something moving forward. Now that Leilani has been found guilty of the Big M, I would hope the DA's office would move forward and do something with Billy. Because you don't get custody of a child and turn a child back over to the person that endangered the child's life and then jump into freaking chats and cry victim. It doesn't work that way. It's freaking crazy. Who the hell does she think she is? Just me said, Brooks, please address LA 326. No, she didn't. She never signed the papers. Just wait. Yeah, she did. Yeah, that's totally proven. 100%. Her signature and everything. Why would she not sign the papers? Of course she did.
And I'll give you a live look outside of the Chatham County Police Department so you can see. So we are all set up for that press conference that's supposed to start in just a few moments. We actually have a statement from Billy Joel Howe, who is Leilani Simon's mother. She's gave the statement to WTOC saying, "Our family is devastated and Quentin deserves justice." She says, "We want Quentin home so he can be laid to rest." She says, "I hate that I'm not there for Leilani. We love her, but we do not stand by any of this." This is Billy Joel Howe, the mother of Leilani Simons. Quentin remains still with authorities, and we know that sentencing will occur at a later date. You can continue to stay updated with this case.
For the Chatham County Police Department, and there's many others to thank.
Muscle said, finally, justice for Quentin. Yeah, Billy, I mean, there's some things that she has said the truth about, and there's some things that she has lied about.
Give me 1 second. All right, I'm good. Whenever y'all ready. Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Hadley. I'm the Chief of Police for the Chatham County Police Department. To my right is Assistant Chief Julie Tolbert. And to my left is Detective Marion Lemons, she's the lead investigator on this case. We are grateful that the Chatham County Police Department's two requests for justice for Quentin Simon resulted in a guilty verdict today for his killer, Leilani Simon. I would like to personally thank Chatham County District Attorney Shalina Jones, Assistant District Attorneys Tim Dean and Jenny Parker for their tireless preparation in this case and for the work in the courtroom that led to this conviction. I'd also like to thank Detective Lemons and Detective Noble and all of the Criminal Investigations Division for the Chatham County Police Department, and there's many others to thank for all of their work on this case. It was a monumental effort, to say the least. No one who worked for CCPD on October 5th, 2022 will ever forget that day or the 6 weeks that followed. Every single person who worked for our agency, both sworn officers, professional staff, played a part in this case, from detectives who worked more than 48 hours straight with no break for sleep
when Quentin was first reported missing. To our professional staff who put in marathon days, making sure we had supplies for our landfill search. This case took every bit of physical, mental, and emotional strength of our employees in order to bring this to completion. I've never been prouder of any group of professionals. Very few law enforcement agencies ever have a
What the hell was that noise? My goodness. Wow.
Quentin Simon truly became Chatham County's child during this weeks that our community was gripped by his disappearance. It is fitting today that 12 men and women from our community delivered the final measure of justice for little Quentin with their guilty verdict. We hope this brings some measure of peace and comfort to everyone who loved Quentin, and we are eternally thankful to them. With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Chief, when this was happening initially, after Quentin's remains were found, you told us that this was the largest investigation in Chatham County police history. This is a monumental effort, as you mentioned. I wonder how this verdict makes you feel, how proud you are of the hard work that Detective Lemons and your other team went through. I mean, I just can't even imagine the difficulty in that work.
Well, there's a lot of emotions, quite frankly, and number one, proud. You get to stand up here with great people, a great young detective who's early on in her career, and giving them the support that they need to go out and do the work that is asked of them every day.
Okay, let's have a conversation and we will go back to the press conference. And I'm not picking on LA 326. She says Billy never signed the paperwork. She said, just wait. Does it make it any better? Let's just pretend she didn't. Let's pretend she just walked away and never signed the paperwork, which we all know she has. I can tell you why. I can tell you why. It's right here. The maternal grandmother has a permanent guardianship order as to the child Zane. Now, the reason Quentin isn't mentioned in this document is because at this point they knew that Quentin was in the landfill. The maternal grandmother, meaning Billy, failed to provide adequate supervision for the child Zane by leaving Zane. This is when she lost custody of Zane, which means she signed the paperwork, LA 326, by leaving the child Zane in the home, in the care of the mother, a person the maternal grandmother knew or should have known was unfit to provide proper care while the maternal grandmother traveled out of state. I mean, do you understand this? Do you understand that? Let me put the link in. And this whole just wait, just wait, just wait. Well, she should obviously have paperwork where she didn't sign it. She's in chats all the time. Why didn't she provide this 2 years ago?
In this case, obviously being a very stark example. So I'm certainly extremely proud of them, the department, and proud of the teamwork and all the
when you're coordinating multiple agencies and which are populated by different people, and you're trying to manage all those relationships, but everybody was committed to finding justice for Clinton, and that is an extremely almost spiritual thing, to be able to get that amount of teamwork together for weeks and weeks and weeks, and no one wavered, no one complained. No one complained about the long hours. No one complained about having to put on a Tyvek suit with boots in the heat and rake a landfill looking for remains. So, in that regard, you're very proud. But then you can take it to being very sad. Obviously, with a little boy that's not here today. So, in knowing how this case affected so many people on a very personal level. Their emotions and how they dealt with what they had to do, from Officer Zerke, who gave some very compelling testimony in this trial, to understand the human element of it, that these officers, these men and women are very human, and they're going to be affected for the rest of their lives for a case like this. To y'all, who are human too, and come out and cover cases and cover something such as this, you're going to have thoughts and emotions about this like everyone else. So my hats are off to you guys and gals that come out here and do your work. And it really was a collective community effort where everyone had their part to play and everyone had their role to play. But we found justice, and it ended today with that guilty verdict, and we couldn't be happier.
Chief, a lot of testimony was centered around the police work involved in this case. What did it mean to you and your officers who testified to have the public see some of the work?
And if we can remember that as they go out and do their work every day, and they don't get the attention that a Clinton Simon case gets, but that they're human, they do a great job, they're very dedicated, and we appreciate them.
And might I add to that, I just want to say that in this particular case, this was a major case for CCPD, our very first major case, a historic case. And I just want to mention to you that the lead investigator on that case, Detective Lemons here, this is her very first major case. She's never investigated a case to this magnitude before, and she did an awesome job at it. So I want to give her that recognition because she did so much work on this case. She deserved that recognition.
Absolutely.
Chief Hadley, you were in court today during deliberations. Those deliberations took several hours between 2 days. The defense team really knocked prosecutors on their lack of physical evidence here. Was there a point that you were worried about the verdict, and were you confident at all times that the jury was going to return the verdict that they did today?
I was. Any case, if you're being objective, you're going to sit back and look at where maybe there's some, call it weaknesses, call it vulnerable areas, that you go, wow, if someone's considering, guilt or innocence, they could think of this. But I believed in the work that we did. I believe we did everything that we could do. We left no stone unturned in our ability to present a case to the DA's office for them to prosecute. And I had every belief that they were going to come back with a guilty.
And what do you think that piece of evidence was that really sold the jury? I mean, you said you tuned into the trial periodically. I mean, what do you think it was for the jury to convict on all counts?
I believe personally that it was the investigative work. That to me it was kind of deductive reasoning. Certainly there was questions about manner of death, and our ability to determine that based on finding a very small amount of remains. In the factors of the case. But I think that the investigative work and their ability to interview and get information from witnesses, the boyfriend, cell phone technology, they just kept after it. And once you kind of distilled all that down and eliminated some of the other potential possibilities, you could only reach one conclusion, and that Leilani Simon was responsible for the death of her son.
Chief, you talk about the manner of death. There being some questions as to how he possibly died. What was y'all's leading theory as to how he was killed before being placed in the dumpster?
I don't believe well, I can speak for myself.
Sure.
Because I stay out of my investigators' way. So I didn't bring them in and say, what do you think, and whatnot. And I'm sure that Detective Lemons has her own opinions about that. So I never really had a concrete, this is what I think happened. Something happened. His body was taken to a dumpster and left in a dumpster, and the dumpster was taken to a landfill, and we searched that landfill and found his remains. And through our investigation, there was only one person that could be responsible for that, and that was his mother. Something happened in that house, and only God and Leilani Simon seems to know. And she'll have a lot of time to think about that, in prison.
Do you think it took a long time? Do you think it took longer than you expected for jurors to deliberate on this decision?
I think, no, I wouldn't say that. They have a tough job. And I'm sure they're sitting there, I would imagine that they're sitting there thinking, our decision or my decision could send someone to prison for the rest of their life or a good portion of the rest of their life. You don't take a responsibility like that lightly. So I think that they contemplated the evidence, that they were diligent in how they approached it. They took the necessary time to reach the conclusion that they did, and then rendered the verdict to Judge Stokes.
Where were you able to watch that verdict? Were you watching with a group of folks? And if so, I wonder what the immediate reaction was as she's reading guilty, guilty, guilty 19 more times.
I was watching it from my phone in my car, and I was relieved. Certainly, you're always going to have some anxiousness, but I was relieved and incredibly proud instantaneously to work there.
A lot was made during the trial, during testimony about Simon's demeanor, especially in her interview on October 5th, 2022, in this very building with y'all. When did she first raise suspicions for investigators that she might be the one responsible for Quinton's death and disappearance?
Well, I think, obviously in any cases like this, as we got into the initial, 4 or 5 hours, we're able to locate a missing child and start thinking of, okay, what are the possibilities? But we remained open-minded. I think we approached it in a very holistic way, trying to eliminate all possibilities of him being missing, of being abducted, and things of that nature. And through the work of Detective Lemons and the other detectives, you start kind of honing in on, inconsistencies and things of that nature. But I do believe we kept a very open mind, as we should, in these type of cases. But over time, it became apparent that, she was not being truthful with us and was perhaps responsible.
And finally, for me, this case touched so many people, not just law enforcement and not even just crews at the landfill, but community-wide in some.
Okay, obviously that's Brian Inton talking. Stephanie said, does the guilty verdict mean life in prison? That's 100% up to the judge. Sentencing is probably not until December. And yeah, I have a feeling she'll be in jail for life.
Some cases nationwide. For all the people who have been screaming justice for Quinton for the past 2 years, what is your message to them this afternoon?
Well, number one, thanks for your support. We understood that, we were getting criticism that, we didn't make an arrest quick enough, but, we were dedicated to putting together a criminal case that was prosecutable and that we weren't rushing to judgment. We didn't want to do anything that would harm the case as we presented it to the DA. And we didn't want to do anything premature. We wanted to make sure that we had our evidence intact and in line to be able to charge appropriately and prosecute effectively. And I think that's what we did. I think that for those out there that, number one, supported us, thank you. That supported the detectives, that showed up at the station with food, that the emails and the outreach is very necessary and very appreciated, because as you trek through these investigations, a lot of the officers won't admit that they like the pat on the back, but they do, because they feel supported. And I think to speak to everybody is that this is how justice works. I think this is how it's supposed to happen. That you have an incident, it's properly and thoroughly investigated by a professional law enforcement agency, it's presented to a district attorney, that spent an enormous amount of time, energy, and effort in the prosecution of this case. We had effective counsel on the prosecutorial side. We presented it to a jury of her peers. They did their due diligence in looking at the evidence and considering all, and they came back with a guilty verdict because they believe in their heart that Leilani Simon was guilty. And that's what I believe. But that's how justice is supposed to work in America, and I think it happened in this case.
So Chief Tolbert acknowledged this earlier, that this department's never really undergone an investigation of this magnitude before. It's the largest in y'all's history. How has this case changed the department? Has it changed the way y'all do things? Has it changed the way you approach particular cases? How have y'all, changed for the last 2 years?
Well, I don't know if I'd use change, but I think it helps food.
I see where Brian Nitton is going. And he's a cool dude, don't get me wrong. But he's trying to put some questions on him, on Chief Hadley, he can't answer. A case of this magnitude, they've never had before. Obviously, they handled it. They realized within a few interviews that Leilani did something, which we know now, to her son. And like you said, many people were after us. We didn't arrest her right away, but this is what we decided to do. And obviously it worked out because she's horrible. I mean, what she did was disgusting. I can't even imagine. And I get really tired of, people trying to rush justice. And I'm one of them. So I can't be a hypocrite. I really can't. Because honestly, I'm one of them. I say all the time, well, why don't you just go ahead and arrest them? I would rather them put away. But the DA flat out said, I'm not doing anything until every measure is exhausted to find him. Not doing it.
Some of the culture of the agency, knowing that we're a agency that was born out of a demerger from Savannah Chatham Metropolitan Police Department, this was kind of our Super Bowl. Not kind of, it was our Super Bowl at the time. And number one, to have young officers and detectives know that we can do something such as this and do it good and well and effective. It gives, I think, the agency a sense of confidence that if confronted with something similar or another large case of magnitude, that we got the tools, we got the intelligence, and we got the right people here to be able to do that in a very responsible and professional way. Okay. Well, we appreciate you showing up this evening, and thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you, guys.
And so you just heard from Chief Hadley with the Chatham County Police Department talking.
In my opinion, they did great. And that's the reason I always say that I always back the blue. If you guys could put a flag, a heart, anything in here, I've got a few dollars coming in, and we're going to send them some lunch, and hopefully they really enjoy it.
It's to fly over states and all different races. We're small timers with big dreams. Oh, fathers and mothers, sisters and brothers, first responders hit the same. It's them red and blue lights, crazy Friday nights, a kiss before leaving again. where the oath begins. The line is so thin. We're playing this game to win. To serve and protect is cause and effect. The brave uniform of truth. Cause they're me and they're you, honest and true. This credit's been long overdue. I'm back in the blue. Back to blue. Back to blue. Heroes of the shield on foot or four wheels. They answer the call for us all. Keeping evil in check, you got my respect. Upholding the arm of the law. To serve and protect.
Hold on. Catherine said Billy Joe won't be arrested. She didn't sign the paperwork. Well, then what is all the documents saying that she did? Why was she the permanent guardian of Zane and Quentin if she didn't sign anything? I don't understand where this is coming from. And what a coward to say, oh, my hands are clean. I never signed it. That's crazy. I don't understand that mentality from her.
To serve and protect is cause and effect. The brave uniform of truth. Cause they're me and they're you, honest and true. This credit's been long overdue. I'm back in the blue. Back to blue. Back to blue. Heroes of the shield on foot or four wheels. They answer the call for us all. Keeping evil in check, you got my respect. Upholding the arm of the law. To serve and protect is cause and effect. The brave uniform of truth. Cause they're me and they're you, honest and true. This credit's been long overdue. I'm back in the blue. Back to blue. Brave uniform of truth. Back to blue. Honest and true. This credit's been long overdue. I'm back in the blue. To serve and protect is cause and effect. The brave uniform of truth. Cause they're me and they're you, honest and true. This credit's been long overdue. I'm back in the blue. It's cause and effect. Back to blue. Brave uniform of truth. Back to blue. Honest and true. Back to blue.
Well, y'all, today has been a great day for justice. Thank the heavens. Let's have a round of applause, please, for the jury in Chatham County. I want to say thank you so much for everyone for being here and sticking by. Like I say, we follow every case to the end, to the bitter end. And sometimes it doesn't turn out our way. Muscles mascara. Brooks, please make sure you check your account and use it however. Hold on. I'm going to kick your ass, Jessica. Muscles and mascara. Okay, so we have 120, 130, 135, 140. I think that can certainly feed a department. Let me see what we have in here. Oh, yeah, we got it. Oh, yeah, we got it, my friends. We have got this. There's nothing wrong with sending some sandwiches, some pops, and everything over to the police because, listen, we'll talk about this in Discord and figure out what we're going to send. I mean, pizza you have to rewarm. I'm thinking some, sandwiches, like a few sandwich trays and stuff like that for them. So we will discuss that. But you guys are absolutely amazing because there's 25 people in that department. Or we can do like breakfast. It's always a joke. Donuts. Everyone loves a donut. So yeah, we will get, sorry, I'm getting choked up. You guys are amazing. I absolutely love you. Absolutely love you. And if I don't see you in Discord or one of the Facebook groups, then I will see you. OJ, please quit your bullshit right now, okay? You're really stressing me out. Then I will see you back here Monday morning. Sarah said breakfast tacos. Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of these huge sandwich trays they have. And I think that we can get on that right now. Absolutely. You guys are the absolute best. And I tell you what, I couldn't be happier to be a part of this community and to have amazing friends like all of you. All right. I'll see you guys on the next round. You're the best.